Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emanuel, I'm a Boeing 737 pilot and a member of PMDG's tech team. In today's video, let's pick up where we left up with our raw data flying, and let's do a little bit of air work as well as the holding. So, from our present position, we are still on the Warthog 1 Whiskey departure, exactly where we left off in the previous video, and we are on the radial 268 inbound to Warthog VOR. From here, let's have a look at the ILS chart, which has a standard approach joining out of Warthog, and which has holding available as well. Now, before we're going to go into the holding, let's do a little bit of air work and just revise what we did in some of the previous videos. So we'll start with a steep turn left and right. The steep turn is a very good exercise as it emphasizes your instrument scanning. Keep in mind, as you're going through the 30 degrees, you are going to get the bank angle warning, and we have to increase thrust and pitch slightly in order to maintain our altitude. So we're just going to do a turn left and right here in order to maintain our altitude and airspeed to practice our instrument scan. And if you're looking into more details as to how exactly to do this, then have a look at the dedicated video on raw data flying that I released like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks, depending on the time where this video is going to be out. So rolling out, thrust back to standard, and once the aeroplane is stabilized, let's do the same into the other direction. Alright, and here we go, steep turn right. As we're going through 30 degrees, bit more thrust, bit more bank.
Bank angle. Bank angle. Bank angle. Bank angle. Bank angle.
Bit more thrust even to catch that airspeed back up. Don't rely on the trend vector here, that is not necessarily accurate. Alright, so once again 60%, and once we're back at altitudes around about 5 degrees of pitch. And here we are. So this is normally the point where an instructor would go ahead, freeze the simulator like we're doing right now, and then ask you, so show me on the chart please, where are we? So since this video is about raw data flying, it is of course also about understanding our raw data instrumentation. And indeed we have the needle towards Warthog VOR up here. So we can see we're currently on a radial of 293, 294, 6.5 miles from the station. So if we have a look at our chart over here, we can see we are on 29. Let's make it 293, so around about out here. Now 5 miles, and we have these lovely DME rings up here, which are 5 miles each. So we're about here. And that's how easy it is. Just have a look at the needle and the DME distance, and then have a look. You have these DME rings on the chart here, or if you're using other chart formats than the Jefferson charts I'm using over here, then you probably have a scale or something the likes on the chart somewhere. If nothing like that is available, you always have the DME distances on the final that you can sort of use to figure out exactly where you are. Now, with that exercise complete, let's talk about a raw data holding. I'm not going to go into details about holding entries because there are some really good videos available on that topic on YouTube already, and I don't want to do double content, but I'm going to link one in the video description below if you want to have a look into how to fly a raw data holding entry. Now, for our purposes, it will suffice to say that we can see the VORs on our bearing of 113 and the inbound course is 065, so that's going to be a direct entry into the holding, making it kinda easy, but flying is easy, isn't it? Right, so I'm going to release us from the Force Simulator. We'll proceed direct Warburg VOR, and we are going to join the holding overhead Warburg. We are rather close to the station, so don't forget that. And keep in mind that we have the difference due to the slant range as well. So just because it's saying 5.2 miles over here, it doesn't mean that we're exactly 5.2 miles. But it means that our distance from the airplane to the VOR in a slant line like this is now 4.3 miles. 6,000 feet of altitude equals 1 nautical mile, so with that you can kind of guesstimate where you actually are. So our inbound course is 065, so let's put that in. 065, the wind is coming from straight ahead, 10 knots, and it's right-hand turns, and with no timing given, it's gonna be a 1 minute lag time. As soon as we're over the station, which is when our indications vanish, we are going to start our right-hand turn. 245 is our target track. But for now, I'm simply holding the airplane up to the green needle in order to fly directly to the VOR. And already set our outbound course here, 245. And here we are. So, the station is probably located at around 1,000 feet, so we're looking at half a mile. And here we go. Alright, so I'm giving it a tiny bit of extra time, since the procedure is designed to be overflown and then you start the right-hand turn, but here we go. So, the wind's coming from 261 at 10 knots, so that is minimal drift. We can neglect that as we are flying the holding, so we'll just go on the course of 245. 10 degrees of headwind means that we'll do an additional 10 seconds in the outbound leg, so that we have the correct timing on the inbound leg of 1 minute. So keep in mind, timings in the holding are always calculated for a correct inbound sector, not for the outbound. That means that we have to apply some wind compensation over there. What you can normally do is that for every knot of wind you just add a second on the outbound leg, and that is usually going to give you a rather good compensation for the wind. So we are past the station already, as we can see from the needle and from the from to indication. We're wings leveled, so let's go timing. Looking at 10 knots of wind, 70 seconds on the outbound sector. And then we'll make a right and turn back onto the radial, so that we can fly an appropriate inbound course and timing. In general, for those of you who are not familiar when to start the timing, you have to beam the station and you have to be wings level. So what just happened on this very round was that we have been past the station by the time we rolled wings level. That's when I started the timer. Now, if you actually overfly the station as in a normal holding, keep in mind we approached from somewhere over here, so we entered like this. If you actually overfly the station in a normal holding, then you will probably be wings level by the time that you pass the beam the station. So we have 10 seconds to go. Three, two, one, time's up. Let's start a right-hand turn. We're looking for a bearing of 065 inbound, which means radial 245. For those of you who are not so familiar with the different terms that we are using for the nav aids, I might do a separate video about those in the future, just to explain a little bit more of what you can do with each nav aid. But for now, suffice to say that we're looking at a bearing of 065 inbound. which equals to a radial of 245. So a radial is coming in. I'm preparing my timer already, and then let's see how well or not we did our timing. And here we are, wings level, timing. Doing some minor corrections here, but as long as we're within 1 dot, that is fine, and we're inside protected airspace, even though you should aim not to overshoot the radial onto the outbound of the holding over here. But then again, normally there is not too much that you can actually do in order to avoid that from happening, so a little bit of overshooting can definitely happen here. Some of you might be wondering, if you fly a holding using the FMC, then the outbound and inbound sectors are always of the same length. And yes, that is true, but that is technically speaking not how you're supposed to fly a holding. But it is how the FMCs do it, and nobody's complaining about it, so that is kinda established procedure. So, time's up. Let's see how much further it is until we actually overfly the station. We gotta keep that in mind for our timing of the outbound leg on the next one. But this is probably the difference caused due to the holding entry, which was not exactly on the target track. So now we're approaching the station. We'll be overhead in a moment, and then we'll just about do the same thing again. What you are going to find out when you are flying those rotator holdings is that you are really going to become accustomed to maintaining all the target values in the 737 over here. Like you can see how it is possible to maintain that altitude and that heading in a pretty similar way like the autopilot would do in terms of the precision. So with sufficient training, especially in the real aircraft, which is a little bit easier to control due to the force feedback and due to larger ranges of travel of all your flight controls, especially in the real airplane, it is possible for the pilot to fly the airplane exactly like the autopilot would. Now, of course, that will require a lot of attention from the pilot, which is overall the reason why we do have autopilots. But overall, precise aeroplane control definitely is something that is possible for the pilot, which is something I find flight simmers will often forget. Right, now we're wings level. We can see our to from indication is still showing from. The moment this one changes to 2, which is now, we're going to start our timing. But let's do the thing again. Looking at about 70 seconds on the outbound sector. Something you can do as well, the wind is almost on the nose, but as said, almost, so what you could do is to apply a tiny bit of correction to the right here. As you can see right now, track line is just about a degree or two to the right of the outbound bearing, so that is hopefully going to help us a little bit as we approach the final turn with joining the radial exactly. But we're really looking at tiny corrections here because the strength of the wind is so weak at the moment. One final thing to say here. Yes, especially the flight students among you are going to notice that you will have a lot of formulas available to actually calculate all these corrections. However, you will find, or at least I find, that it is a little bit easier to do these things without all those formulas, but actually by developing a feeling for it. Right, time's up. Let's start our final turn. Or rather, let's start our inbound turn. Once again, for the raw data aspect of the flying over here, the most important thing is pitch control. You can see how my dot over here is just exactly on the 5-degree line right now, and if I see my altimeter is just a bit below, then I just pull it up a tiny little bit, and I don't even use the vertical speed indicator over here, because those are usually not 100% accurate. They always lag a little bit behind, in real life even more than in Flight Simulator, so always remember the basic formula: pitch and power equals performance, so all those other instruments would basically not be necessary in order to maintain proper controlled flight. Right, here we are, exactly on the radio. Let's start our timing, see how good our holding has been. But while this timer is running up, I would like to thank you very much for joining. I hope that you have found this one interesting, and if you did, I am looking forward to your comments. Leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and if you really want to support the channel, you can do so through the Buy Me Coffee link below, or if you want to become a permanent supporter, you can use the Patreon link that you can find just down there. But for now, I have 30 more seconds to cover, hopefully until we are exactly over at the VOR. So thank you very much for watching indeed, and if you do have any questions, if you want something to be explained a little bit better, then do let me know in the comments, and I will aim to either give an explanation there, or if I see a question popping up often enough that it warrants further video, then I am certainly going to do that as well. But for now, approaching the VOR, timer is about up, which is now. So, 1.5 seconds that we've overshot. I would tend to say that was a fairly well executed holding. For now, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see you all again soon.